Today, we're taking a look at a really specific and honestly a pretty frustrating business problem.
Hmm.
It's that administrative hurdle that stops these small, technically brilliant industrial operators from landing those huge, life-changing contracts.
Yeah, we've been digging into this source conversation all week. It's with an operator. His name is Greg, and he really details the intense pressure he's under, both logistically and financially.
Right.
I mean, he runs a tiny operation. It's literally just two people, and he's trying to make that leap from doing okay to, playing in the big leagues.
Getting those long-term contracts with like major aluminum smelters or these massive LNG plants.
Exactly.
So our mission today is really to unpack what we're calling the safety gap. And it's not a technical gap. Greg can do the work. It's all compliance.
It's all paperwork.
We really want to figure out why safety management suddenly becomes this giant, expensive bottleneck, and what solutions are actually out there to get past the information overload and the incredibly high stakes.
The source material lays out Greg's situation perfectly. He's lean. He actually says his company is me and another guy.
Two people total.
Two people. And he's doing that on purpose. He wants to keep it small.
Yeah, and he has a really clear philosophy on that. He's looking for what he calls the sweet spot. Income versus time spent.
He does not want to hire 30 people and then just be strapped to his work. His words.
Just managing people and paperwork.
Right.
Not doing the actual skilled work that makes him money.
And that lean approach really defines his revenue. He says they're hovering around the $300,000 mark a year.
Okay.
He thinks he could push it to maybe $500,000 in a great year, but, if things slow down, it could drop to $250,000.
And he's already landing decent projects, right? $30,000 to $70,000. He's in with a major smelter, quoting bigger jobs. He knows the LNG market is where the real growth is.
So he's got the access. He has the reputation. He has the skill.
But he's stuck. He's hitting this wall, and it's not the real work.
Yeah.
It's all the non-core stuff that's stalling him out.
That's it, exactly. Greg just admits it. The day-to-day safety management is creating what he calls a log jam. He's trying to scale. He wants to put in these bigger bids, but he just feels unconfident.
And that lack of confidence, it comes directly from this constant demand for, what sounds like really confusing documentation. He talks about complex risk assessments and these constant submissions to what the industry calls a pre-qualification box.
Right. And for anyone listening who hasn't dealt with this, a prequal box isn't, a physical box. It's an online system.
It's software.
Yeah, a vendor accreditation platform. The big clients use it to automatically vet all their contractors. You have to upload everything, manuals, training logs, insurance, and the system gives you a green light or a red flag.
And Greg's pretty honest about it. He just says, I don't understand a lot of it, to be honest. It's not my thing.
He's a skilled industrial guy, not a compliance expert.
Exactly. He feels like he's in deep water with safety, and he absolutely knows he needs to get his ducks lined up before he can even think about pitching for those bigger contracts.
Because if he pitches a big job and they say, okay, show us your compliance package, he has to be ready to go instantly.
If you hesitate, you lose the deal.
Yeah. But it goes so far beyond just losing a contract. This is where the source material gets genuinely terrifying.
The financial penalties for not being compliant on these big sites, they're just staggering.
Yeah.
And they're instant.
They do not mess around. Greg shared this unbelievable anecdote from a job site he's on. There was a painting crew there, totally separate company.
And they got hit with a massive, immediate fine.
A $50,000 fine.
$50,000.
For a paperwork issue. Their violation, the fit test for their respiratory masks was not up to date.
Okay, let's just quickly define that. A fit test is a mandatory check, and make sure a respirator mask creates a perfect seal on your face so it's actually filtering what it's supposed to filter.
It's a critical safety step. But the fine wasn't because someone got hurt.
No.
It was because the documentation proving the test was missing or it was invalid.
And this is the moment where it all clicks for Greg. He sees that $50,000 fine, and his gut reaction is, one hit like that would sink my business.
I'd be done.
That's the difference right there. It's not just an administrative error anymore. It's an existential threat to your entire company.
It immediately changes safety from, a procedural thing into the most critical financial risk he faces.
And that's the point, Mike. The service provider in the conversation just hammers home. He introduces this critical calculation.
And this is what really puts the risk into perspective for any small operator who might be listening.
Let's break this down because it's the core financial insight of this whole deep dive. Greg's company runs on, say, a healthy 20% profit margin. Pretty solid for his revenue range.
Okay, so now you apply that $50,000 fine to that 20% margin.
Right.
Mike explains that for Greg to earn back that $50,000 he just lost, he would have to go out and generate an additional $250,000 in new revenue.
Wait, say that again. You have to go do $250,000 worth of jobs.
Yeah.
Which is like 6 months of work for a company his size, just to pay back the money you lost from one missing signature on a mask test.
Precisely. You're not just paying the fine, you are paying 5 times the fine in pure work and sales effort. It makes the risk of a paperwork mistake completely disproportionate to the size of the business.
Okay, so if the risk is that massive, $250,000 in remedial revenue, you'd think the obvious answer is just, hire a full-time safety person. What stops that from being the solution?
And that is the structural problem. That's what creates the safety gap.
Yeah.
First, there's just a quality barrier. The sources point out that to get someone who's actually good enough for these major industrial clients, they need 4 or 5 years of real, dedicated experience.
And you need that experience, not just to write the documents, but to navigate all the shifting regulations, the liability laws, the different demands from different clients. You need a pro.
But then you hit the efficiency barrier. Even if he found that person, the reality is, for a full-time safety manager to be fully busy, to be cost-effective, you really need a company with about 100 to 150 employees.
So you're saying a full-time safety manager is built for a company that's, 50 to 75 times bigger than Greg's?
Exactly. For his 2-person team, hiring that experienced manager who's going to want a salary around $120,000 a year is just... it's impossible.
It would wipe out his entire profit margin.
Instantly. So that's the gap laid bare. You have this existential need for top-tier safety expertise, but zero ability to pay for it full-time.
And Greg has tried to, patch this together. He has procedures, he's got a safety manual, he even has a safety guy he calls to create documents. But he says there's still this huge disconnect.
The disconnect isn't about having the documents, it's about running the program.
Right. It's the practical day-to-day stuff. He's asking, what are we doing every morning? What's the protocol? Who signs what?
And he's most worried about growth. He says he can't fudge it when he brings on a new employee. The training, the onboarding, all that compliance has to be perfect, auditable.
Or else he's immediately exposed to that $50,000 risk. He needs a dedicated safety person, but he's just, as he says, not that big a company.
Which is where Mike's solution comes in. It's this idea of fractional or outsourced expertise. It directly targets that scaling problem.
I can see a listener being a bit skeptical, though. How can some part-time service really manage the constant high-stakes demands of a major industrial site?
Well, what's interesting is that the service isn't about just getting documents when you ask for them. It's about getting a system and a professional manager for that system.
So Greg doesn't get a full-time person on his payroll?
No. He gets full-time program management, but it's accessed remotely. Ah, okay. So instead of him having to know the difference between a JHA and a confined space permit, he gets a pro whose only job is to manage the calendar and make sure everything is current and ready for an audit.
That's the key. The service gives him a safety pro who can securely log in and see your paperwork, give quick advice, and manage the whole program day to day. The goal is to take all that technical admin work.
The stuff that causes him all the anxiety.
All of it. Take it off his plate so he can just focus on the highly skilled industrial work that actually makes him money.
So let's detail the logistics. This is the roadmap for someone in his position. It's not paper hour, right? It's a fixed monthly contract with set deliverables.
Absolutely. Budget certainty is huge. The first step is what they call a gap assessment. They do a quick review of the company's current setup safety manual, insurance, training records.
They're basically doing a dry run of a client audit.
Exactly, to find out precisely what's missing before a real client does. And right after that, they tackle the hardest part, pre-qualification management.
Those software platforms? Yep. The ISNs, the Avetas. If you want to work for an LNG facility, you have to be compliant in their system. And those platforms are complex and they're always changing.
So the outsourced pro just takes over that whole administrative nightmare. They become the contact person for the ISN platform.
And crucially, they are proactive. They gather up the safety manual, the procedures, the insurance certificates. The whole goal is to have everything loaded into that prequel box and keep it updated. So when Greg lands a big contract, he doesn't stall the deal for a week trying to find paperwork.
This is where it really provides value. Greg mentioned when he tries to do this, he's hung up on the phone for an hour every time with the client's rep.
And that's an hour he's not on the tools, not making money.
Right.
So the outsourced pro steps in as that intelligent point of contact. They can have that conversation. They understand the regulations. They can navigate a tough compliance issue without wasting Greg's time. They speak the same language as the client's safety team.
And what really seems to seal the deal for Greg is the promise that the pro they provide gets it and is not going to try and make you do shit that you don't need to do.
That efficiency is absolutely critical for a lean business. They make sure he's only doing what's necessary to get the contract and do it safely, not piling on complex procedures that just slow down a two-person crew.
So he gets the confidence of a $120,000 a year manager, but at a fraction of the cost.
And that makes his goal of pitching for those big jobs seem achievable all of a sudden.
So what's the key takeaway here for you, the listener? Whether you run a two-person crew or you're advising one, it seems pretty simple. For small, skilled operators who want to scale, safety compliance isn't an optional expense.
No, it's a prerequisite. It's the ticket to the dance. You have to have it to even get in the door for those high-value contracts.
And it has to be aligned with that overall business goal, finding that sweet spot of income per time spent. Outsourcing this seems to let you manage that huge $250,000 downside risk while keeping your team lean and focused on what they do best.
The whole discussion just really highlights that you need to have the right processes in place before you start chasing the big fish. The bar is set incredibly high.
So here's the final thought for you to think about as you consider your own ambitions. We've seen that an error as small as an outdated mask fit test can lead to a $50,000 fine.
Yeah.
The question is, what hidden logistical or compliance risks are currently keeping your business from confidently chasing those next-level opportunities?